Hey guys, what's up?
So we had a few questions from a few of you, namely Caesar Zamudia, Playas Leia, Ja Agriffa, and John Doe, concerning the issue of multiverses in Berserk, and also in the conclusion of the series, is it possible for Gatts to defeat the God Hand, and if so, how would he do that?
We'll discuss these possibilities and more in this week's Berserk Theory. Alright, so the first thing we're going to discuss is the possibility of multiverses in the Berserk universe. Now, I do believe there are different realms and dimensions, but I don't believe in the theory of the multiverse.
Yeah, I agree with you, because the term multiverse kind of assumes that there are alternate realities in which you, let's say for example, there are different versions of you living in each universe, completing maybe the same action with different outcomes. So I think probably, like you said, we're more thinking along the lines of different realms, which is the field or province of something else. So all those mythical beings live in a different field, one that's separate from the rest of the humans, for example.
Yeah, so what she's talking about is when Griffith, when he killed the Emperor Ganeshka and took over his body and made it into the World Tree or the Tree of Light or whatever you want to call it, it caused all these illusionary beasts and mythical creatures to come out into the light, and humans were able to see all these creatures that existed amongst them, but before they just couldn't see them.
Oh, so basically the realms were merged.
Yes, that's exactly what happened. So with all these crazy creatures in the world and the God Hand being so omnipotent and powerful, how does Gatts actually stand a valuable chance to beat the God Hand?
Well, I think then he would call on his quote-unquote secret weapon, which is enemy of the Inhumans, also known as the
Skull Knight.
Exactly. And I think that these two are more linked than people can imagine, because legend has it that the Skull Knight was actually the initial owner or wearer of the Berserker armor, and it had an image of
Skull Knight.
the skull, on it before.
So, okay, let's look at some possible theories. First off, it's said that if the wearer dies in the armor, they become something else. So it's possible that if Gatts dies wearing the armor, he could become his own demon beast, which is the demon god. Therefore, he will gain abilities similar to the Skull Knight, giving him a greater advantage and superior strength and superhuman abilities.
Yeah, and I mean, I want to go back to the point that I was making earlier on about Gatts and the Skull Knight being more linked than we think, because there was one instance when the Skull Knight actually loaned his sword to Gatts and was there doing his monologue while Gatts was using it to ward off spirits. So to me, it could have been like a kind of training.
Yeah, I totally agree. In fact, it leads me into another way Gatts is able to fight against the God Hand. The Skull Knight owns the Sword of Actuation, where Gatts owns the Dragon Slayer. Now, these swords have similar abilities, but on different scales. Gatts' sword, the Dragon Slayer, is able to hurt astral beings like ghosts. Skull Knight's Sword of Actuation is actually able to cut through space and time.
Yeah, so it works on a dimensional level.
Right.
And that's potentially able to injure the God Hand.
Potentially, but we saw that Griffith was able to actually catch the swing of Skull Knight's sword and use it to kill Ganeshka. But alone, it mightn't be enough. But if something happens to the Skull Knight where he gives his sword to Gatts and it fuses with the Dragon Slayer, it might give the Dragon Slayer the extra edge it needs to then be able to cut through space, time, and astral. So that covers all three, giving the sword abilities far exceeding the original.
That really is a possibility, because even Gatts alone with the Dragon Slayer was able to hurt Slam.
Yes.
So the combination, I mean, the Skull Knight transformed his sword from what it was into the Sword of Actuation. Is it possible that the Skull Knight could fuse both swords together?
Most likely. So what can happen in the end of the series, as stated by Playas Leia, is that the Skull Knight could indeed, in fact, sacrifice himself to give Gatts the needed advantage to defeat the God Hand. And actually, it might be him fusing himself with the sword, fusing the Sword of Actuation with Gatts' sword, or just, giving him that extra push to defeat Griffith and the God Hand.
Thank you so much for tuning in and checking out our video. Don't forget to like the video if you haven't already done so. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more content from us. And leave your questions down below. We love to hear them. Over and out.